In Jamaica, we have a term, if it not go say, go near so, which is if it's not the truth, it's pretty near close. And I mean, that's pretty much fiction in general. And in fiction, I would say fiction is the lie that tells the truth. And it's the same in Jamaica. In Jamaica, I don't trust written history, I trust rumor. I don't trust facts, I trust gossip. Largely because, ironically, because the stakes for gossip is so low, because you're only sharing it with one person or two or so on, and there's an intimacy involved, people are more candid. People are more forthcoming with facts. A lot of this novel was so heavily researched, but a lot of the turning points in the novel are stuff people whispered to me, stuff people just said, and sometimes I'll do some background checking, and it really turned out that way. The idea that it was a multi-person narrative was not something I had initially, and it was not something I saw. Somebody had to see it for me. But the second she pointed out is my friend Rachel, who sadly is no longer with us actually. But Rachel said to me, "Why do you think it's one person's story? When last have you read As I Lay Dying?" And that was a, you know, I don't necessarily believe in epiphanies, except in James Joyce stories, but that was an epiphany. That was a really major moment. I am very interested in complicating characters. And it's funny, I remember the very first time, my very first workshop ever, the person who conducted it said, "You know, you're a very good writer, but you don't have a clue about women." Which is really ironic now that I'm supposed to be the writer who has a clue. And I thought it was really, I was actually kind of offended by that. I'm like, well, my mom is a detective. I am her own strong woman all the time. But then she said, which woman do you read? And I couldn't name any. I said, that's your problem. You have no concept of female literary space. And she was right. And how did I learn to write female characters? I read female characters written by women. So lots of Toni Morrison, Muriel Spark, Iris Murdoch. And not, you know, women who write intelligent, deeply complicated, problematic, quote unquote, women. I am still a very huge Dickensian. I'm a big follower of Charles Dickens and Jane Austen. And there are two things I learned from both of those writers on how to construct a compelling villain. And villain seems strong for Jane Austen, and certainly fits Dickens. But one of the things that both Dickens and Jane Austen did, and I think Austen does it slightly better, is even her most unsavory characters have the most interesting worldviews. And one of the things about two of my characters, Josie Wales and Papalo, they're extremely violent men whose lives don't end very well, and you don't necessarily feel sorry when they're gone. But they may be sociopaths, but they have the most refreshing worldview. And it complicates the characters because you don't want to like them, but you so understand where they're coming from and even agree with them to a certain point. I actually don't have a favorite character in this novel, and there's a reason for it. One of the things that became very important for me when writing this is at some point, I can't remember when, I promised myself I wouldn't stop writing a character until I fell in love with them. And that applied to every single one. You know, the term post-colonial has been bandied about quite a bit with me, and because I also said I'm a post-colonial writer. But one of the things I will say that is sort of post-colonial is that trying to figure out who you are, and in my case, trying to figure out what my country is, trying to figure out what exactly is that Jamaican identity, is a huge part of what I write. And I think I'm a forward-thinking person, but I am a backward-looking novelist. because I still think there are stories that aren't told. I think there's stories that aren't told the right way, and those are fighting words. And I think there are stories that are still up for grabs.